A Christmas tea. I was pulling a double shift in the ER. My parents and sister told my 16-year-old daughter there wasn't space for her. A seat at the table. She had to drive home alone and spend Christmas in an empty house. I stayed quiet. I made my move. The next morning, my parents read a letter and started screaming. You know that gut-wrenching feeling when you realize the people who are supposed to love you most, your own family, have crossed a line so unforgivable it changes everything? Well, that happened to me this Christmas. My family told my 16-year-old daughter there was no room for her at their holiday table, forcing her to drive home alone to an empty house. My heart didn't just break, it absolutely shattered. But what I did next, the way I finally stood up for my girl, completely redefined what family means to us. Hi, I'm Lauren Mitchell. I'm 35, an ER nurse, and a single mom to my incredible daughter, Harper. She's 16 now, and honestly, she's the best part of my world. Working double shifts during the holidays? Yeah, that's just part of the gig in the ER. And for years, I'd been expertly managing the delicate dance with my parents and my sister, all for Harper's sake. I always thought I was protecting her, preserving some semblance of family unity. But that Christmas, they went too far. They crossed a line I never, ever imagined. And trust me, I didn't cause a scene that day. I didn't yell or scream. Instead, I took decisive action. I became a nurse 12 years ago, driven by this deep-seated desire to help people during their most vulnerable moments. The irony isn't lost on me that I've spent so much of my life caring for strangers, sometimes feeling like I was failing to truly protect the person who matters most to me, Harper. Harper's dad, Jason, and I divorced when she was 7. It was relatively amicable as divorces go, but Jason's involvement in her life has been, well, inconsistent. He moved to Seattle for work 3 years ago, and his visits became increasingly rare. Now, it's mostly just phone calls on her birthday, an occasional text, and child support payments that usually, mostly, arrive on time. Harper stopped expecting more years ago, and that breaks my heart, but it also makes me fiercely proud of her incredible resilience. My parents, Richard and Eleanor Mitchell, live about 30 minutes from our small apartment in this beautiful colonial-style house in the suburbs. Dad retired from his accounting firm 5 years ago, and Mom? She's always been the quintessential homemaker, her entire identity wrapped up in perfect family gatherings and an immaculate house. Then there's my younger sister, Amanda. She married well. Her husband, Thomas, comes from money, works in finance, and they have 2 kids, Ethan, who's 13, and Zoe, 10. The dynamic in our family has always been complicated. Amanda was always the golden child, so much more willing to follow Mom's strict rules about proper behavior and appearances. Me? I was the rebel. I chose a common profession, nursing, and then I got divorced. In Eleanor Mitchell's book, those were 2 unforgivable sins. This pattern of favoritism didn't stop with us, it extended right down to the grandchildren. Ethan and Zoe received lavish attention, expensive gifts, and constant praise. Harper, on the other hand, often felt like an afterthought. Despite all of this, Harper tried so hard to win their approval. She'd spend hours making homemade cards for their birthdays, she'd help in the kitchen without even being asked, and she'd politely endure my mother's thinly veiled criticisms about everything from her casual clothing choices to her interest in photography, which, apparently, wasn't as proper as Zoe's ballet or Ethan's tennis lessons. They just don't know how amazing you are, I'd tell Harper after particularly difficult family gatherings as we'd decompress in the car on the drive home. It's okay, Mom, she'd always respond, with a shrug and a smile that never quite reached her eyes. I know they love me in their own way. At Memorial Hospital, where I work, I found the family support I often lacked at home. My colleague, Dr. Meredith Wilson, has become a dear friend over years of shared holiday shifts and the controlled chaos of the emergency room. She's single, no kids, but she's always taken a special interest in Harper, showing up at her school photography exhibitions and bringing her quirky souvenirs from medical conferences. Meredith gets it. Christmas at my parents' house has always been a production. My mother plans months in advance, decorating every single inch of their home with perfectly coordinated ornaments and insisting on formal attire for dinner. In previous years, I'd always negotiated my hospital schedule to make sure Harper and I could attend, even if it meant working overnight on Christmas Eve or heading straight to a shift after opening presents. This year was different. A nationwide nursing shortage hit our hospital especially hard, and by early December, I knew I'd be working a double shift on Christmas Day. It was disappointing, but utterly unavoidable. Harper, I'm so sorry about Christmas this year, I told her one evening as we decorated our small artificial tree. I tried everything to switch, but we're critically understaffed. Harper hung a handmade ornament from her elementary school days and smiled. Mom, it's fine. I'm not a little kid anymore. Grandma already called and said I should still come for dinner. I paused, ornament in hand. Really? That was thoughtful of her. See, they do care. Harper looked genuinely pleased. And I can drive myself now, so you don't have to worry about me getting there. Having just gotten her license 2 months prior, Harper was eager to embrace any opportunity for independence. Still, I hesitated. I don't know, sweetheart. It's Christmas Day. There could be drunk drivers. And Mom, she interrupted with that patented teenage eye roll. It's a 30-minute drive in broad daylight. I'll be super careful. Plus, I already told Grandma I'd help her make those cranberry tarts everyone loves. Seeing her excitement, I reluctantly agreed. I called my mother to confirm the arrangement, making absolutely sure Harper would be welcomed and comfortable spending Christmas with them while I worked. Of course, she should come, my mother said briskly. Families should be together on Christmas. It's a shame you have to work, but I suppose someone has to. I ignored the passive-aggressive undertone, focusing instead on the logistics. I'll make sure she brings something for dinner. What time should she arrive? 3, dinner at 5. And tell her to wear something nice. I'm using the good china. It was settled. Harper would spend Christmas with my parents and sister's family while I cared for patients in the ER. Though I felt the familiar pang of working through another holiday, I was grateful Harper wouldn't be alone. At least, that's what I thought. As Christmas approached, Harper seemed genuinely excited about going to her grandparents' house alone. She picked out a new green sweater that brought out her eyes, practiced making a sweet potato casserole using my grandmother's recipe, and even wrapped thoughtful presents for everyone with her characteristic attention to detail. You'll call me when you arrive, right? I asked for probably the 10th time as Christmas Day approached. Yes, Mom, Harper promised. And I'll text you updates so you don't worry. I still had reservations, of course. But seeing Harper's enthusiasm about feeling grown up enough to drive herself to Christmas dinner, I pushed my concerns aside. After all, she would be surrounded by family who supposedly loved her. What could possibly go wrong? Christmas Eve was a flurry of last-minute preparations. Harper and I had our own small celebration that night, exchanging a few gifts and watching our traditional movie marathon of holiday classics. I helped her wrap the sweet potato casserole in foil, with detailed reheating instructions written in my neatest handwriting. Are you sure the sweater looks okay? Harper asked, modeling her new green outfit with black pants and small silver earrings I'd given her the night before. You look beautiful, sweetheart, I assured her, tucking a strand of her auburn hair behind her ear. Absolutely perfect. The next morning arrived too quickly. I had to report for my shift at 7 a.m., and as I donned my scrubs, Harper sleepily made her way to the kitchen to see me off. Remember, drive carefully, I said, hugging her tightly. Text me when you get there and when I leave, and if anything happens, she finished with a smile. I know, Mom. I've got this. Go save lives. I kissed her forehead, trying to ignore the knot in my stomach. Love you, Harper. Merry Christmas. Love you too. Now go before you're late. The emergency room was predictably chaotic when I arrived. Holiday-related injuries and illnesses always kept us busy, from cooking accidents to heart attacks triggered by family stress. By mid-morning, we had a steady stream of patients, and I fell into the familiar rhythm of triage, treatment, and care. Around noon, my phone vibrated with a text from Harper. Made it to Grandma's. Driving was fine. Grandpa says, hi. I smiled, feeling relief wash over me as I quickly typed back between patients. Great. Having fun? Her response came a few minutes later. Yeah, helping with dinner prep. As the afternoon progressed, I checked my phone whenever possible, noticing Harper's texts becoming increasingly sparse and less enthusiastic. 1:30 p.m. Aunt Amanda brought extra people. Some colleagues of Uncle Thomas. 2:45 p.m. Dinner might be later than planned. 3:50 p.m. Everything's fine, just busy. By 5:30 p.m., the ER had reached peak chaos. A multi-car accident had brought in several trauma patients simultaneously, and I hadn't checked my phone for over an hour. When I finally had a moment to breathe, I found a message that made my blood run absolutely cold. Coming home. Don't worry about me. My hands shook as I tried calling Harper, but the call went straight to voicemail. I tried again while rushing to the break room, panic rising in my throat. Dr. Wilson, I need a minute, I said to Meredith as I passed her in the hallway. What's wrong? She asked, following me. It's Harper. Something happened at my parents'. My phone rang. Harper's face lit up the screen. I answered immediately. Harper, what's going on? Are you okay? I'm fine, Mom, she said, her voice too controlled, too flat. I'm driving home now. Why? What happened? Nothing important. Grandma just said there wasn't room at the table for me. It's no big deal. My heart dropped. What do you mean, no room? What exactly happened, Harper? There was a long pause before she continued, her voice smaller now. Aunt Amanda brought 4 extra people from Uncle Thomas's office. When it was time for dinner, Grandma said they needed the dining room seats for the adults. She told me to eat in the kitchen. I closed my eyes, gripping the phone tighter. And then I said that was fine, but then Grandma started rearranging, making sure Ethan and Zoe were at the main table with everyone else. When I brought my plate to the kitchen, Harper's voice cracked slightly, she said. She said there was a lot going on and maybe it would be better if I just came back another time when it wasn't so hectic. She said there was really no room and maybe next year would be better. White-hot anger surged through me. Did anyone say anything? Grandpa Amanda. Grandpa was busy carving the turkey. Aunt Amanda just looked uncomfortable and kept talking to her guests. Uncle Thomas suggested I could eat in their car if I wanted to wait. Harper's attempt at a laugh came out more like a sob. No one even offered to drive me home or make me a plate to take with me. So, I just left. Where are you now? I asked, struggling to keep my voice steady. About 10 minutes from home. I'm being careful, I promise. Harper. I'm so sorry. I can try to get someone to cover. No, Mom, she interrupted firmly. You have patients who need you. I'm fine. Really, I'll just heat up some leftovers at home. Text me the second you get home, I insisted. Leave the location sharing on your phone turned on. I will. Don't worry. After we hung up, I stood frozen in the break room, shaking with a mixture of fury and heartbreak. Meredith placed a hand on my shoulder. What happened? I explained the situation, each word tasting bitter in my mouth. That's horrible, Meredith said, her expression darkening. Do you need to leave? I can talk to Reynolds about emergency coverage. I looked through the break room window at the busy ER, weighing my professional duty against my primal maternal instinct. There were patients in pain, scared, and separated from their families on Christmas. No, I finally said. Harper says she's okay for now. She'll be home soon, and there's nothing I can do to fix this immediately. These patients need me here. I checked my watch. My shift ends at midnight. I'll handle my family then. Meredith squeezed my arm. Let me know if you change your mind. And Lauren, don't let them get away with this. I nodded, returning to the floor with a newfound clarity amid my anger. As I checked vitals and administered medications, my mind replayed years of subtle, and not so subtle, mistreatment that I had allowed to continue for the sake of family harmony. Harper texting that she had arrived home safely was my only comfort as I worked through the evening. We exchanged messages when I could. Are you hungry? There's leftover pasta in the blue container. Found it. I'm okay, Mom. Don't worry about me. Did anyone call you from Grandma's? A longer pause before. No. No one. That simple no cemented my resolve. During my dinner break, I called my friend Rachel, who lived in our apartment complex. Rachel, I hate to ask on Christmas, but is there any chance you have extra food? Harper's alone at home, and say no more, Rachel interrupted. Brian made enough ham to feed an army. We'll put together a plate and bring it over right now. Thank you, I said, my voice cracking with gratitude. The spare key is under the turtle planter. I remember. Don't worry about a thing. As my shift continued, I dealt with everything from a child with a Lego stuck in his nose to an elderly man experiencing heart failure. The final case of my night was particularly poignant. A family reconciliation in the waiting room after a car accident scare had brought estranged siblings back together. Life's too short, I overheard the older brother say as they embraced. Family should have each other's backs. I thought about those words as I finished my charting. Family should have each other's backs. Harper and I had always had each other's backs. It was time I had hers in a way I should have years ago. The remaining hours of my shift stretched endlessly. Every time I checked my phone, I hoped to see a message from my parents or Amanda, some acknowledgement of what they had done to Harper. The screen remained stubbornly free of any such communication. While inserting in 4 for an elderly patient, my hands trembled slightly as flashbacks of previous family gatherings surfaced in my mind. Harper, at age 8, sitting alone at the kids' table while Ethan and Zoe were invited to sit with the adults because they were being so well behaved. Harper, at 12, excitedly showing her grandmother a painting that had won a school art contest, only to have Eleanor glance at it dismissively and change the subject to Zoe's ballet recital. Harper, at 14, spending hours wrapping thoughtful presents for everyone, then watching her cousins receive expensive electronics, while she got generic bath products that still had the clearance sticker partially visible. Are you all right, dear? My elderly patient asked, noticing my distraction. I forced a smile. Yes, just thinking about my daughter. She's home alone on Christmas. The woman patted my hand with her free one. You're here helping others. That's teaching her an important lesson about service. She'll be just fine. I nodded, but the truth nagged at me. I wasn't just teaching Harper about service. I was inadvertently teaching her that it was acceptable to be treated as less than by people who were supposed to love her. That her feelings and dignity were negotiable. During my break around 10 p.m., I texted Harper again. How are you doing, sweetheart? I'm okay. Rachel and Brian brought over food. They're really nice. Did you eat enough? Yeah, their ham was actually better than Grandma's. Don't tell her I said that. I smiled despite everything, recognizing Harper's attempt to lighten the mood. Your secret's safe with me. Did you open the present I left on your nightstand? Not yet. Saving it for when you get home. Good idea. Try to get some sleep if you can. I'll be home around 12:30. I'll probably still be up. Love you, Mom. Love you too. More than anything. I put my phone away and leaned against the wall, suddenly exhausted beyond the physical demands of my shift. Meredith found me there, offering a cup of coffee. Rough night, she asked, sliding down to sit beside me. Harper's always tried so hard with them, I said, accepting the coffee gratefully. Every birthday card, every school achievement, every time she helped my mother in the kitchen without being asked, she was trying to earn their love, as if love is something you should have to earn from your own family. Meredith nodded. My mother was the same way with me. Conditional love isn't really love at all. The worst part is that I've allowed it, I confessed, the realization hitting me with full force. I've made excuses for their behavior for years. That's just how Mom is. Dad doesn't notice these things. Amanda's always been competitive. I've normalized it all instead of protecting Harper. You are protecting your idea of family, Meredith said gently. It's what most of us do. We convince ourselves that maintaining the relationship at any cost is better than confronting the problems. Not anymore, I said. A newfound clarity washing over me. This ends now. For the remainder of my shift, I moved through my duties with mechanical precision, my mind formulating the words I would say to my family. No more deflection, no more excuses, no more prioritizing their comfort over Harper's well-being. I thought about Harper's resilience, how she never complained, how she always found something positive, even in difficult situations. She deserved so much better than what my family had given her, what I had allowed them to give her. At 11:30 p.m., I treated my final patient of the night, a young mother who had fallen while hanging Christmas lights. As I sutured a cut on her forehead, she fretted about her children at home. My husband's with them, but it's Christmas night, she said, wincing slightly as the needle pierced her skin. I should be there. You'll be home soon, I reassured her. And children are remarkably resilient. They understand when things don't go according to plan. You sound like you're speaking from experience, she observed. I finished the last stitch before responding. My daughter is spending Christmas night alone because my family decided there wasn't room for her at their table. The woman's eyes widened. That's terrible. What are you going to do? For the first time that night, I smiled genuinely. I'm going to make sure it never happens again. As midnight approached, I completed my charting and prepared to hand off to the night shift. Dr. Nathan Pierce, who had agreed to cover the overnight, arrived looking fresh despite the late hour. Merry Christmas, Lauren, he said, reviewing the patient board. Looks like you had a busy one. It was eventful, I replied, giving him a brief update on current patients. Thanks for coming in tonight. No problem. I don't have family obligations, he paused, then added, Meredith mentioned you had some family drama. Everything okay? I appreciated his concern, but wasn't ready to discuss it further. Nothing I can't handle. I should get home to my daughter. He nodded understandingly. Of course. Give her my best. As I left the hospital, the cold December air felt clarifying. In my car, I checked the location sharing app. Harper was at home safe. According to Rachel's text, they had stayed with her for a while before heading back to their apartment, but she was doing okay, just a bit quiet. The streets were nearly empty as I drove home, Christmas lights twinkling from houses filled with families who hopefully treated each other with more kindness than mine had shown Harper. With each mile, my determination solidified. Tomorrow would bring confrontation, but tonight was for my daughter, my real family. I arrived home just after midnight, entering our apartment as quietly as possible in case Harper had fallen asleep. The living room was dimly lit by our small Christmas tree, its multicolored lights casting shadows on the walls. What I saw next broke my heart all over again. On the coffee table sat the remains of Harper's makeshift Christmas dinner, a paper plate with a few bites of the ham Rachel had brought over, a half-eaten microwaved baked potato, and an empty mug that had probably contained hot chocolate. Beside it lay an unopened packet of store-bought cookies with a post-it note stuck to it, saved for Mom. I moved through the silent apartment to Harper's bedroom, gently pushing open the door. She was curled up on her bed, still fully dressed in her Christmas outfit, her phone clutched in her hand as if waiting for a call or message that never came. Even in sleep, her face wasn't entirely peaceful. Her eyebrows drawn together slightly, dried tear tracks visible on her cheeks. On her nightstand was the small wrapped package I'd left for her, a delicate silver camera charm for the bracelet she'd been collecting charms for since she was 12. It remained unopened. Around her, I noticed several wadded-up tissues. On her desk, the presents she had carefully wrapped for my parents and sister's family sat in a neat pile, now with nowhere to go. The sight ignited something primal within me. A fierce, protective fury I hadn't allowed myself to fully feel until that moment. This was my child, my beautiful, kind-hearted daughter, who had done nothing to deserve such callous treatment, who had driven home alone on Christmas Day, sat in an empty house, and cried herself to sleep, still wearing the outfit she had so carefully chosen to impress people who couldn't be bothered to make space for her at their table. I gently sat on the edge of her bed, brushing hair from her forehead. Her eyes fluttered open. "Mom," she murmured, voice thick with sleep. "What time is it?" "Just after midnight." "I'm home now," I whispered, continuing to stroke her hair. She blinked, fully awake, suddenly remembering. "Oh, how was work?" "Never mind work. Tell me everything that happened today." The full story. Harper sat up slowly, pulling her knees to her chest. "It's not a big deal, Mom." "Really? It is a big deal, Harper. Please tell me." She took a deep breath, looking down at her hands. "I got to Grandma and Grandpa's around 3, like we planned. Grandpa was really nice when I arrived. He helped me bring in the casserole and gave me a hug. Grandma looked at my outfit and said green wasn't really my color, but I tried to ignore that. My jaw tightened, but I stayed silent, letting her continue. I helped in the kitchen for a while. Everything seemed fine, but Grandma kept checking her phone and looking anxious. Around 4, Aunt Amanda arrived with Uncle Thomas and the kids, but they had 4 other people with them. Some colleagues of Uncle Thomas that were in town without family. Grandma seemed surprised, but kept saying, the more the merrier. Harper twisted a loose thread on her sleeve. When it was time to set the table, I started helping. That's when Grandma pulled me aside and said there were too many adults for everyone to fit at the dining room table. She asked if I would mind eating at the kitchen counter since I was young and adaptable. I closed my eyes briefly, imagining the scene. I said that was fine, Harper continued. I really didn't mind. But then I noticed she made sure Ethan and Zoe got seats at the main table. Zoe's only 10, Mom. When I pointed that out, Grandma said they were sitting with their parents because the guests needed to be accommodated properly. Harper's voice grew quieter. So I took my plate to the kitchen, but Amanda's guests kept coming in for drinks and seconds, making comments about how weird it was that I was sitting there alone. One of them asked if I was the hired help. My hands clenched into fists. After about 10 minutes, Grandma came in looking flustered. She said having me in the kitchen was making things awkward with the serving dishes and everything. She suggested, well, she didn't really suggest. She just said that maybe with everything going on, it would be better if I came back another time when it wasn't so hectic. Harper's eyes filled with tears. She actually said, there's really no room, Harper. Maybe next year. Like I was some distant acquaintance who had shown up uninvited. What did Aunt Amanda say? I asked, my voice barely controlled. She was standing in the doorway and just looked away. Uncle Thomas was the one who suggested I could wait in their car if I wanted to stay. But it was clear nobody wanted me there, so I just said I'd go home. Harper wiped her eyes with her sleeve. Nobody tried to stop me. Nobody offered to drive me or check if I got home. Grandpa was busy talking to the guests. I don't even think he noticed I left. I texted you when I got in the car and that's it. End of story. I pulled Harper into a tight hug, feeling her tears soaking through my shirt. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I'm so sorry this happened. It's not your fault, Mom, she said, her voice muffled against my shoulder. You had to work. I know that. It is my fault, I countered, pulling back to look her in the eyes. I've allowed them to treat us both poorly for years. I've made excuses for their behavior instead of standing up to it. But that ends now. Harper looked at me with surprise. What do you mean? I mean that what they did was completely unacceptable and there will be consequences. No one treats my daughter that way. Not even family. Especially not family. For the first time since I'd come home, Harper's lips lightened slightly. You're not going to go all mama bear on them, are you? I smiled despite my anger. Maybe. Would that embarrass you? No, she said after a moment's consideration. Actually, I think I'd be okay with that. We sat talking for another hour, Harper eventually changing into pajamas while I made us both fresh hot chocolate. As the conversation wound down, exhaustion caught up with us. I suggested we both try to get some sleep. Can I stay with you tonight? Harper asked in a small voice that reminded me of when she was much younger. Of course, I said, heart aching at her vulnerability. We fell asleep in my bed, Harper's head on my shoulder like when she was a child afraid of thunderstorms. I held her close, silently promising that I would never again allow anyone to make her feel unwanted or unworthy, regardless of their relationship to us. I woke at dawn with absolute clarity about what needed to be done. Carefully sliding out of bed to avoid waking Harper, I began setting my plan in motion. It was time to show my daughter what standing up for yourself and for those you love really looked like. The morning light filtered through the blinds as I made my first phone call. The hospital was understanding about my request for a personal day. I rarely asked for unscheduled time off, and they knew I wouldn't do so without good reason. With that settled, I moved quietly around the apartment, gathering what I needed. First, I collected the Christmas decorations from my parents' house, items my mother had insisted I take to make Harper's Christmas more festive. Into a box they went, ready to be returned. Next, I prepared breakfast. Pancakes with chocolate chips in the shape of a smiley face, something I used to make for Harper on difficult days when she was younger. I set everything on a tray with a small vase containing a single red carnation I'd found in our miniature garden on the balcony. While the coffee brewed, I made my next move. I called my parents' house, unsurprised when it went to voicemail after several rings. They were never early risers, especially after hosting a dinner party. "Mom, Dad, this is Lauren," I said, my voice calm and clear. "What happened yesterday with Harper was completely unacceptable. I'm taking the day off work to spend it with my daughter, who spent Christmas alone because you decided there wasn't room for her. I'll be bringing back all the Christmas decorations you gave us, as we'll be creating our own traditions from now on. If you want to have a relationship with either of us moving forward, it will be on new terms, with clear boundaries and respect. I'll be in touch when I'm ready to discuss what those terms will be." I hung up, feeling a weight lift from my shoulders. No anger, no yelling, just clear consequences for their actions. Next, I sent a text message to my sister. "Amanda, we need to talk about yesterday. Harper told me everything that happened. I'm beyond disappointed in your role in this." Her response came surprisingly quickly. "Lauren, you're overreacting. It was crowded and awkward. We didn't plan to have extra guests." Harper seemed fine with going home. My fingers flew across the keyboard. A 16-year-old driving home alone on Christmas to an empty house because adults couldn't make space for her is not fine. Your children were accommodated while mine was sent away. That speaks volumes about what you think of Harper. Amanda's next response showed her true colors. "That's not fair. My kids are younger. Harper is practically an adult." Mom was stressed trying to accommodate everyone. It wasn't personal. I took a deep breath before responding. It was absolutely personal to Harper. She prepared for days, was excited to be with family, and ended up alone on Christmas while everyone else celebrated. No one even checked if she got home safely. Think about how that felt for her. Would you accept that treatment for Ethan or Zoe? When no immediate response came, I continued, "This isn't just about yesterday. It's about years of Harper being treated as less important than your children. I've allowed it because I wanted to keep the peace, but that ends now. If you want a relationship with us moving forward, things need to change dramatically." I put my phone down, hearing movement from my bedroom. Harper appeared in the doorway, hair tousled from sleep, looking younger than her 16 years. "Morning," she said cautiously, eyeing my expression. "What are you doing up so early?" "Making breakfast," I said, gesturing to the tray and taking a personal day. "I thought we could have our own Christmas celebration today." Her eyes widened. "But your shift is covered," I finished. "Today is just for us." Harper noticed my phone lighting up with a call. "Is that Grandma?" "Yes," I confirmed, silencing the ringer. "But she can wait. Breakfast first." We sat together at our small kitchen table, eating pancakes and talking about everything and nothing. I didn't mention my calls and texts, wanting to give Harper a peaceful morning. As we were clearing the dishes, my phone rang again. My father this time. "I should probably take this," I said to Harper, who nodded. "Hey, Dad," I answered, stepping onto the balcony for privacy. "Lauren, what's this message about?" he asked, sounding genuinely confused. "Your mother is upset." "What happened with Harper yesterday?" I explained the situation in detail, not softening any aspects of how Harper had been treated. There was a long silence when I finished. "I had no idea," he finally said, his voice heavy. "I was busy with the guests carving the turkey. Your mother didn't tell me she'd asked her to go home. Whether you knew or not, Dad, it happened. And it's part of a pattern that's been going on for years. That's not fair, Lauren. We love Harper. Love isn't just a feeling, Dad. It's actions. And your actions, all of you, have consistently shown Harper that she's less important, less valued than Amanda's children." He started to protest, but I continued firmly. "I'm not having this conversation to hear excuses or justifications. I'm letting you know that things are changing. If you want to be in our lives, you need to respect both of us. That means acknowledging what happened, apologizing sincerely to Harper, and making real changes going forward." Another pause. "Your mother wants to talk to you." "Not today," I said firmly. "I'm spending the day with Harper. We can talk tomorrow if you'd like, but it needs to be a conversation, not your chance to explain away what happened." After we hung up, I returned to find Harper sitting on the couch, trying to appear casual, though I could tell she'd been listening. "Everything okay?" she asked. Getting there, I assured her. "I've let them know that things need to change if they want to be in our lives." Harper looked both impressed and slightly alarmed. "What if they don't want to change?" I sat beside her, taking her hands in mine. "Then we'll build our family elsewhere, with people who value you properly." As if on cue, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Meredith standing there with armfuls of grocery bags. "Reinforcements have arrived," she announced, breezing past me into the kitchen. I brought everything for a proper Christmas dinner. Hope that's okay. Harper's face lit up. Dr. Wilson, you didn't have to do that. It's Meredith outside the hospital, remember, she teased. And of course I did. No one should miss Christmas dinner. She began unpacking ingredients, a small turkey, potatoes, vegetables, and several dessert options. Before I could thank her properly, the doorbell rang again. This time it was Rachel and Brian from across the hall, along with their college-age son, Michael. We thought you might want some company, Rachel said with a warm smile. And Brian makes amazing stuffing. The more the merrier, I said, the phrase taking on new meaning as I welcomed them in. Within an hour, our small apartment was filled with laughter and the scent of cooking food. Meredith had apparently spread the word because 2 more hospital colleagues arrived, Nurse Sophia with her husband James, and Dr. Lopez with homemade tamales that his mother insisted were essential to any holiday celebration. Harper moved from initially shy to increasingly comfortable as everyone made her the center of attention, asking about her photography, complimenting her help in the kitchen, and treating her with the respect and affection my own family had failed to provide. Around 2, there was another knock at the door. Harper answered it, then called to me with an uncertain voice. Mom, it's Aunt Amanda. I joined Harper at the door where my sister stood alone, looking uncharacteristically unsure of herself. Can we talk? She asked quietly. I glanced at Harper, who nodded slightly. Come in, I said. We're having our own Christmas celebration. Amanda's eyes widened as she took in the full apartment and festive atmosphere. I can come back another time. No, I interrupted. If you want to talk, now is fine. We can use the balcony. Once outside, Amanda fidgeted with her purse strap. I wanted to apologize to both of you, but especially to Harper. What happened yesterday was wrong. Yes, it was, I agreed, not making it easier for her. I should have said something when Mom told her to leave. I knew it wasn't right, but... She trailed off. What? But I didn't want to make a scene. I didn't want to upset Mom or make things awkward with Thomas's colleagues. She looked down. I put everyone else's comfort above Harper's feelings. That was wrong. Her honesty surprised me. Yes, it was. The truth is, Amanda continued, her voice quieter, I've always been a little jealous of your relationship with Harper. You two have something special. You're not just mother and daughter. You're actually friends. You respect each other. I don't have that with my kids. I hadn't expected this level of vulnerability from my always composed sister. That doesn't excuse what happened, she added quickly. Nothing does. I just wanted you to know that it comes from my own insecurities, not from not caring about Harper. Amanda, you've allowed your children to be favored over Harper for years. You've participated in it. She nodded, tears forming in her eyes. I know, and I'm truly sorry. I'd like a chance to make it right if Harper's willing to give me that chance. I studied my sister, seeing genuine remorse. That's up to Harper. But any relationship moving forward would need to look very different. I understand, she said. Can I talk to her? I called Harper to the balcony, giving them space to speak privately while I returned to our guests. Through the glass door, I watched their conversation. Amanda speaking earnestly. Harper's initially stiff posture gradually softening. A tentative hug exchanged. When they rejoined the group, Harper had a thoughtful expression. Aunt Amanda's going to stay for dinner, she announced. I said it was okay. I nodded, respecting her decision. Amanda integrated herself surprisingly well into our gathering, rolling up her sleeves to help in the kitchen and engaging with Harper's interests in a way I'd rarely seen before. As afternoon turned to evening, my parents called twice more. I let the calls go to voicemail, focusing instead on the joyful celebration unfolding in our home. We ate turkey and tamales at our mismatched dining table with extra chairs borrowed from neighbors. We played board games and shared stories. Harper laughed more than I'd heard in months. When our guests finally departed around 9, leaving us with enough leftovers for days, Harper helped me clean up with a contentedness I hadn't expected after yesterday's disaster. This was the best Christmas ever, she declared, loading the dishwasher. Even after what happened yesterday? I asked. She considered this, then nodded firmly. Maybe because of what happened yesterday. I saw you stand up for me, Mom. And then all these people showed up just because they care about us. That feels more like family than some fancy dinner where I'm not really wanted. I hugged her tightly, recognizing the wisdom in her words. You're right. Family is about who shows up, not who you're related to. Are you still going to talk to Grandma and Grandpa tomorrow? She asked. Yes, I confirmed, but not to fight or yell, to set boundaries about how we expect to be treated going forward. Harper nodded, understanding the difference. I'm glad Aunt Amanda came today. I think she really meant her apology. I think so too. People can change if they want it badly enough. As we finished cleaning, my phone buzzed with a text from Meredith. Today was wonderful. Dr. Pierce is sorry he missed it. He was asking about you both. Maybe next time. I smiled, typing back. Definitely next time. Thank you for everything today. Harper peered over my shoulder with a mischievous grin. Dr. Pierce was asking about us? The cute one who always brings you coffee. I felt my cheeks warm. He's just a colleague who's concerned. Harper teased. A concerned colleague who looks at you like you're a Christmas miracle. I laughed, nudging her playfully. Go to bed, you. It's been a long 2 days. As Harper headed to her room, she paused. Mom, I'm proud of you for standing up to them. Her words meant everything. I'm proud of us. And I promise, from now on, we're only spending time with people who value you properly, who see how amazing you are. That goes for you too, she said. Seriously. You deserve better, too, Mom. As I got ready for bed that night, I realized Harper was right. We both deserved better, and by taking action today, I had finally shown her how to make that happen. The confrontation with my parents tomorrow wouldn't be easy, but with Harper by my side, I felt ready for whatever came next. Our impromptu Christmas celebration had created a beautiful mess. Evidence of joy scattered throughout the apartment. I woke early the next morning to find Harper already up, organizing the leftovers in the refrigerator with methodical precision. Morning, I said, pouring coffee into my favorite mug. You're up early. Couldn't sleep, she admitted. Thinking about today. Today, the day we would formally address what had happened with my parents. I checked my phone, 3 missed calls from my mother, 2 from my father, and several text messages expressing varying degrees of contrition and defensiveness. Are you nervous? I asked Harper. She arranged the last container and closed the refrigerator door before answering. A little, but mostly I feel. I don't know. Stronger. I smiled, recognizing that feeling. That's what happens when you decide not to accept mistreatment anymore. It's empowering. Are they coming here? She asked. No, I said firmly. I thought about it, but this is our safe space. I don't want it tainted with potential conflict. I told them we'd meet at the coffee shop on Maple, neutral territory. Harper nodded, looking relieved. Good thinking. What time? 11. That gives us time to prepare. I sipped my coffee, studying her expression. You don't have to come if you don't want to. I want to, she said without hesitation. I need to be there. As we ate breakfast, my phone buzzed again. Amanda, how's Harper today? Her text read. I meant everything I said yesterday. I'd like to be a better aunt going forward. I showed the message to Harper, who considered it thoughtfully before suggesting I respond positively but cautiously. Tell her we appreciate her apology and look forward to seeing how things evolve. My 16-year-old was handling this with more maturity than most adults I knew. I typed the response, adding, we're meeting Mom and Dad at 11 at Maple Street Coffee. You're welcome to join if you want moral support. Amanda's reply was immediate. I'll be there. And Lauren, thank you for giving me a chance to make this right. By 10:45, Harper and I were seated at a corner table in the cozy coffee shop, 2 steaming mugs before us. Harper had chosen to wear a different green sweater. A deliberate choice, she explained, to show she wasn't ashamed of her preferences despite our mother's criticism. Amanda arrived first, looking uncharacteristically casual in jeans and a simple blouse. She hugged Harper with genuine warmth before sitting beside her. Another deliberate choice that didn't go unnoticed. My parents entered at exactly 11, my father's military punctuality still governing their schedule after all these years. My mother looked impeccably put together as always, but there was an unfamiliar uncertainty in her expression. Dad guided her to our table with a hand at her back. Lauren. Harper. He nodded at each of us, then noticed Amanda. Amanda, I didn't know you'd be here. I invited her, I said simply. Please sit down. Once they were settled, an uncomfortable silence fell over the table. I had promised myself I wouldn't be the first to speak. They needed to take responsibility without prompting. Finally, my father cleared his throat. We want to apologize for what happened on Christmas, he began, looking directly at Harper. It was wrong. You should never have been asked to leave. My mother shifted in her seat but remained silent. Dad continued. I didn't fully understand what had happened until Lauren explained it yesterday. That's not an excuse. I should have been more aware. I'm sorry, Harper. Harper nodded slightly, but didn't speak. Her silence seemed to unnerve my parents more than any angry words could have. Eleanor, my father prompted gently. Don't you have something to say? My mother straightened her already perfect posture. Yes. Well, things got rather hectic with the unexpected guests. Perhaps I didn't handle it as well as I could have. I felt Harper tense beside me. This non-apology was exactly what I had expected. Mom, I said evenly. Harper drove home alone on Christmas Day to an empty house because you told her there was no room for her, while making space for everyone else, including children younger than her. Not handling it well doesn't begin to cover what happened. My mother's cheeks flushed. What would you have had me do, Lauren? We didn't have enough chairs. You could have asked one of the adults to eat later, Amanda interjected, surprising me with her directness. Or we could have eaten in shifts. Or someone could have run to get a folding table. There were dozens of solutions that didn't involve sending Harper away. Mother turned to Amanda with betrayal in her eyes. You didn't say anything at the time. I know, Amanda acknowledged. And I was wrong. I've apologized to Harper for that. The issue isn't just Christmas Day, I continued, keeping my voice level. It's years of Harper being treated as less important than Ethan and Zoe, less deserving of attention, affection, and consideration. That's not true, my mother protested. We love Harper. Love is demonstrated through actions, Mom, I said. And your actions have consistently shown favoritism. Dad placed a calming hand on my mother's arm before addressing me. What do you want from us, Lauren? We're here. We're apologizing. What else can we do? This was the opening I had been waiting for. If you want to have a relationship with us moving forward, there need to be clear expectations and boundaries. I outlined what those boundaries would look like. Equal treatment for all grandchildren, respect for both Harper and me as individuals with valid feelings and preferences, no criticism of our life choices or appearances, and most importantly, accountability when these boundaries were crossed. Additionally, I continued, we won't be attending any family gatherings where these expectations aren't met. We're no longer willing to endure discomfort or disrespect for the sake of keeping the peace. My mother looked stunned. You're giving us ultimatums now. No, Mom. I'm telling you what we need to have a healthy relationship with you. Whether you can provide that is entirely your choice. Harper, who had remained silent throughout the exchange, finally spoke. I want to have a relationship with you both. I love you, but I need to know that you value me. Not just say you do, but show it. Her simple, heartfelt statement seemed to penetrate my mother's defenses in a way nothing else had. Eleanor's expression softened slightly as she looked at her granddaughter. I never meant to make you feel unvalued, Harper, she said, her voice quieter than before. I'm sorry that I did. It wasn't a perfect apology, but it was a start. The first genuine acknowledgement from my mother that her actions had caused real hurt. My father, ever the practical one, asked, what happens now? Now we see if things can change, I answered honestly. We're not cutting you off. We're asking for a reset with new understanding. We agreed to a family meeting in January, on neutral ground again, to discuss specific expectations and how to move forward. As we prepared to leave, my father hugged Harper tightly, whispering something in her ear that made her smile. My mother's embrace was briefer, but seemed less perfunctory than usual. Amanda walked us to our car. That went better than I expected, she observed. It's just words so far, I reminded her. The real test will be actions. I know, she agreed. But it's a start. Over the following weeks, small but significant changes began to emerge. My father called Harper directly several times, showing interest in her photography and offering to help her build a proper darkroom in our spare closet. He came over one weekend with tools and supplies, spending hours working alongside Harper, their relationship strengthening with each shared project. My mother's evolution was slower and more measured. Her first solo visit to our apartment was awkward. She couldn't seem to stop herself from commenting on our cozy living space, her code for small, or asking pointed questions about my career advancement. But when Harper showcased her recent photographs, Eleanor made a visible effort to offer genuine compliments and ask thoughtful questions. The real breakthrough came when my mother invited Harper, just Harper, to join her for lunch and a visit to a photography exhibition at the local museum. When Harper returned home, her eyes were bright with excitement. Grandma actually listened when I explained about composition and lighting, she reported with wonder. And she didn't mention Ethan or Zoe once. Amanda's transformation was perhaps the most surprising. She invited Harper to help Zoe with a school photography project, creating space for the cousins to develop a relationship independent of the adults' dynamics. She began acknowledging her role in the family imbalance, even in conversations with our parents, gently redirecting when old patterns emerged. At work, I found myself standing up for myself in ways I never had before. When scheduling for February came around, I requested certain days off without apology or excessive explanation. My colleagues, particularly Meredith, noticed the change. Whatever happened at Christmas has been good for you, she commented during a rare quiet moment in the ER. You seem lighter. I feel lighter, I admitted. Setting boundaries is surprisingly freeing. Speaking of which, Meredith said with a mischievous smile. Dr. Pierce has been asking if you're free for coffee sometime outside of work hours. I felt a flutter of unexpected interest. Nathan Pierce had always been kind and undeniably attractive. But I had kept my interactions with him strictly professional, too focused on Harper and work to consider dating. Maybe, I said, surprising myself. Maybe I am. When I mentioned the potential coffee date to Harper that evening, her reaction was enthusiastic, bordering on excessive. Finally, she exclaimed, throwing her hands up dramatically. He's been giving you those looks for months. What looks? I asked, pretending innocence. Mom, seriously? Even Grandpa noticed when he came to pick me up from the hospital that time. He asked if you and Dr. Pierce were an item. I laughed, shaking my head at the thought of my father's matchmaking observations. We'll see. It's just coffee for now, Harper said with a knowing smile. The January family meeting we had scheduled took place at a restaurant chosen for its neutral territory status. To my surprise, everyone arrived with written notes, evidence they had given serious thought to our discussions. Even my mother, though she struggled the most with accepting criticism, made visible efforts to listen. Without immediately defending herself, we established clear guidelines for communication and expectations. My father, ever the accountant, actually created a shared document where we could note concerns or issues as they arose, addressing them before they festered into larger problems. The most significant moment came when Harper, with newfound confidence, directly addressed her grandmother. "I need you to understand that when you compare me to my cousins or criticize my interests, it really hurts," she said, her voice steady despite her nervous hands. "I'm not asking you to pretend to love everything I do, but I am asking you to respect that I'm my own person." My mother, to her credit, didn't deflect or dismiss. "I understand," she said after a moment's reflection. "I'll do better, Harper. I promise." It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. As winter melted into spring, our new family dynamic continued to evolve. There were missteps and old habits that occasionally resurfaced. My mother still sometimes made thoughtless comparisons. My father occasionally reverted to conflict avoidance. And Amanda had moments of competitive parenting. But the difference was that now these behaviors were acknowledged and addressed rather than ignored. Harper flourished in this healthier environment. Her confidence grew. Her photography improved as she felt more supported in her passion, and she began to form more authentic relationships with extended family members. She even developed a sweet bond with her young cousin Zoe, who had begun to show interest in photography under Harper's patient guidance. My own transformation was equally profound. The woman who had once swallowed hurt and disappointment to keep the peace now spoke her truth with calm confidence. I advocated for myself at work, leading to unexpected recognition and a promotion to charge nurse that spring. And yes, coffee with Nathan turned into dinner, which turned into regular dating. He was kind, thoughtful, and most importantly, genuinely interested in getting to know Harper, understanding that we were a package deal. "He gets it, Mom," Harper observed after Nathan had helped her set up a complicated lighting arrangement for a school project. "He doesn't try too hard or ignore me. He's just real." That word, real, captured what our lives had become since that painful Christmas day. By refusing to accept the unacceptable, by standing firm in our worth, we had created space for authentic relationships to grow. Not perfect, not without challenges, but real. 6 months after that fateful Christmas, Harper and I sat on our apartment balcony, enjoying the warm June evening. Our small container garden was thriving, a project my father had helped us start during one of his weekend visits. The string lights Harper had hung gave everything a gentle glow as we sipped lemonade and reflected on how much had changed. "Grandpa called today," Harper mentioned, scrolling through photos on her camera. "He wants to take me fishing next weekend." I smiled, remembering how my father had discovered a shared interest in early morning solitude with Harper. Their fishing trips had become a monthly tradition, opportunities for quiet conversation and understanding that had been missing before. "What about Ethan and Zoe?" I asked, curious if the old patterns were truly changing. Harper shrugged. "Ethan's not interested. Zoe might come next time, but she has a recital this weekend." Grandpa said, "It's my special time anyway." That simple statement represented enormous progress. My father had made genuine efforts to form individual relationships with each grandchild, recognizing Harper's unique qualities rather than lumping the cousins together or favoring the others. My mother's journey had been more complicated. After initially resisting change, Eleanor had eventually recognized the ultimatum for what it truly was, not punishment, but an opportunity to build a healthier relationship. While she still occasionally slipped into old habits of criticism or comparison, she now caught herself more often than not, sometimes even mid-sentence. "Grandma texted me about the photography competition," Harper continued, showing me the message. "She found the application and sent me the link before I even mentioned I was interested." The photography competition was a prestigious local contest that Eleanor had discovered through her museum volunteer work. The fact that she had thought of Harper immediately, taking initiative to support her passion, spoke volumes about her efforts to change. Our relationship with Amanda's family had transformed as well. The competitive undercurrent had largely dissolved, replaced by more authentic interactions. The cousins now spent time together based on genuine interest rather than obligatory family gatherings. Ethan, now 14, had actually sought Harper's help with a school photography project, recognizing her talent in a way that would have been unimaginable before. Aunt Amanda asked if we want to join them at the lake house in August, Harper mentioned. "Just a casual thing," she said. "No pressure." "Do you want to go?" I asked, keeping my tone neutral. Harper considered this. "Yeah, I think I do. It's different now. She actually sees me." That was the heart of everything being truly seen. The changes in our extended family hadn't happened overnight, and they hadn't been without setbacks. There had been tense conversations, moments of backsliding, and periods of frustration on all sides. But the consistent enforcement of boundaries had slowly created a new normal. My relationship with Nathan had developed gradually over these months. He understood my priorities and respected the boundaries I set around my time with Harper. His patience and genuine interest in both our lives had allowed something beautiful to grow between us. Dr. Pierce is coming over for dinner tomorrow, right? Harper asked with a knowing smile. Nathan, I corrected gently. And yes, he's bringing ingredients to teach us both how to make proper paella. You really like him, don't you? Harper observed, her perceptiveness catching me off guard. I felt my cheeks warm. I do, but you know you're still my priority, right, Mom? Harper said with an exaggerated eye roll. I know that. I also know that you deserve to be happy, and he makes you happy. Her maturity continually amazed me. When did you get so wise? Probably around Christmas, she answered thoughtfully. Watching you stand up for us changed something for me. I realized that accepting bad treatment doesn't make you a good person. It just teaches people it's okay to treat you badly. I reached across the small table and squeezed her hand. That's exactly right. I've been thinking about that a lot lately, she continued. Especially with college applications coming up next year. I used to worry so much about what everyone thought, especially Grandma and Aunt Amanda. Now I'm just focusing on what I actually want. And what do you want? I asked. To study photojournalism, she said without hesitation. To tell stories through images that make people feel something. The confidence in her voice was the greatest gift of this entire journey. My daughter now understood her own worth in a way that would serve her throughout her life. Our conversation was interrupted by my phone ringing, Meredith calling about a baby shower for another colleague. As I spoke with her, finalizing details for the gift we would bring together, I watched Harper photographing the sunset, completely absorbed and capturing the perfect light. When I hung up, Harper turned to me with curiosity. Remember when you said that standing up to Grandma and Grandpa wasn't just about one Christmas dinner? I nodded. I get it now, she continued. It was about teaching me to value myself enough to expect proper treatment, right? That's exactly it, I confirmed, amazed by her insight. The greatest gift I could give you wasn't protection from every hurt, but the tools to protect yourself, to know your worth, and expect others to honor it. As darkness fell, we remained on the balcony, planning our summer and discussing possibilities for the future. The painful Christmas that had catalyzed so much change now seemed like a distant memory, not forgotten, but transformed into the beginning of something much healthier. You know what I've learned from all this? Harper mused as we finally headed inside. Family isn't just about who you're related to. It's about who shows up, who respects you, who sees you for who you really are. That's absolutely right, I agreed. Family can be biological, but it's also who you choose and who chooses you back every day. As Harper headed to her room, I lingered in our living room, looking at the photographs now prominently displayed on our walls, images Harper had taken, properly framed and honored. Among them was a new family photo from Easter. Everyone actually smiling genuinely. Not perfect, but real. Authentically us. The journey from that painful Christmas to now hadn't been easy, but it had been ultimately healing. By refusing to accept mistreatment, by establishing firm boundaries, we had created space for something better to grow, not just with our extended family, but within ourselves. So, I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members? What happened, and how did it change your relationships? Share your experiences in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more about our journey. Remember, standing up for yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary for healthy relationships. Thank you for listening to our story, and I hope it gives you courage if you're facing similar challenges.